Hi, this is Ed from Wright. Today we're going to talk about one of the features on the new ZXT. This machine has a really low center of gravity, which makes it a lot more maneuverable, gives you more traction, which helps you save time on the job. We're going to go over that in detail here real quick. So the thing that makes the ZXT unique from every other mower on the market, except for our previous generation Z was also built like this. What we did is, most of the time you have the engine up about this high. Here the engine's a lot lower. The mounting of the engine is actually just about in line with the axle of the mower, maybe 6 inches lower than what's typical. And what most companies do is they first put a drive pulley on here to go to the transmissions or the pumps, and then below that they put a clutch, and then that clutch is going to the deck, and that forces them to put all this weight real high in the machine. Well, what we do is we put the clutch on the engine first, and then we put the drive pulley on the bottom. And so that allows us to lower the engine significantly. And then because the drive pulley for the pumps is further down, we can then drop the transmissions about 8 to 10 inches lower than where it's positioned in most machines. So I say it's like lead in the keel of a ship. We're bringing that weight down. When we bring the weight down, it means that when you go around a turn, you have less weight transfer, causing the inside tire to skid. You can stop faster because you have less weight transfer towards the front of the machine. When you're on a slope, you have better control of the machine. You've got less slippage when you're making a downhill turn. That inside tire that's slowing down is less likely to slip as much because all that weight is lower and you have less weight transfer in that turn around there. So let's look under the machine here real quick and I'll show you exactly what that arrangement looks like. Okay, so now let's look at this from a component standpoint. Here we have the wheel motor. So the axle of the wheel motor is about at this level here. This wheel motor has a planetary reduction in it. It gives us tons of torque, wet disc brake, a lot of good features to support this 26-inch tire. So our axle is about right here. And if you look in here, you can see the engine mounting surface. The engine mounting surface is about in line with the axle. If you compare this to another mower that you have or mower you're familiar with, you often see that the engine is 6 to 8 inches higher up here, increasing the height of your center of gravity. Okay? So our engine's mounted low. Now underneath, let's show you how we do that. Here we have the clutch. It goes on the engine first instead of on the bottom. And actually this clutch, the other feature on it is the anchor is in the front right here. And because it's above the pump belt and in the path of the belt here, you never have to take off this clutch anchor to swap out a belt. It makes replacing the belts pretty much toolless. In most cases you can pop them off by hand and put it back on by hand without much significant effort. So then the lower drive here is for the pump. And actually this machine has a pretty sweet setup here where the idler for the pumps, this is 6 inches in diameter, which is bigger than anything in the market. And it has a double row bearing on this idler here. So this lasts a long time. It adds a lot to the life of the belt. So we have now the pump pulley up there, which is very low in the machine. If we go around front, well, we'll look at the top first, okay? You can see the pump is way down low. A lot of machines, the pump would be up about this high. But in this case, it's way, way down there. Now, you might say, hey, how do I get the pump out of there? It's actually pretty easy. If you take this tire off, you can loosen everything up and pull the pump out the front. And you can see here that the pump is actually mounted below the deck belt. Again, makes it super low. We run our belts at a pretty low tension. We use big pulleys, so we get tons of torque, but the belts stay on pretty nicely. They run cooler, they're easy to get on and off, that kind of thing. So the pumps are mounted below this belt, and that's again giving us tons of low weight on the machine. Now the trade-off, or what we were able to do by doing that, is mount the seat a little bit higher, so you're not sitting like on the floor like you're in a race car or something. You have more of this comfortable truck feel because we could move the seat up because we had that weight lower. Now for your bottom line, the thing that this does, you can stop faster, you can turn faster without tearing up the lawn as much, so you can get more done for the amount of time that you have. All right, now let's talk about the 3 bottom line benefits to a low center of gravity. Oftentimes it's really just considered as a slope thing, but I think actually the number one biggest benefit to a low center of gravity is when you're slowing down to make a turn on flat ground. That's the situation you encounter like 99% of the time, and so you have the bigger benefit there. A machine with a high center of gravity, when you go to slow down, the weight transfers to the front wheels, which are not your drive tires, and so your drive tires tend to skid. Now, if you're going to slow down and begin making a turn a little bit, that's even more difficult. So you have to start that turn 20, 30 feet away, begin slowing down gingerly, especially if there's dew on the ground, in order to not skid. Now, if you have a low center of gravity, you can slow down more quickly and you can begin turning sooner because you have less weight transfer towards those front caster wheels. So that's one that has a benefit. About a fifth of your time, 20% of your time typically is consumed in turning the machine around. And so making a benefit to that non-value added piece of your time is a good bottom line benefit. The second benefit to a low center of gravity is if you're going around a tree, say you have a slight slope and there's a tree or a mulch bed on it, and you're going around it. Now that's difficult because when you make that downhill turn, you have a lot of weight transfer off of that inside tire because of the turn and because of the slope. And in some cases, you can't even go around that tree or that mulch bed, and so you have to actually make two laps around it in order to get that cut that you're looking for around that object. And so with the low center of gravity, you have a lot more control around that obstacle on that gradual slope, and you can typically make that in one pass with very minimal turf damage. The third benefit of a low center of gravity is when you're going across a slope like this. It's the very traditional case. Now, if your center of gravity is very high, that's going to take some weight off your uphill tire, and because of that, it's going to cause you to crab on the hill a little bit more to maintain your track. When you're crabbing, you're going to start creating ruts on that hill, especially if you're using the same mower on the same pass every week. And so that low center of gravity, it reduces the amount of weight transfer, so you can cross the slope more directly with less of that crab maneuver, gives you more stability, more control, and it's easier on the turf. Now, this is not to say that you want to get up on really steep slopes that are hazardous. We're not trying to promote that you do that. You have to be very careful on a slope. But on a moderate slope, low center of gravity is a big benefit. So those are three bottom line benefits to lower center of gravity, one of the great features that the ZXT has.